Good morning, readers. It is September 10th, and today is launch day for Long Climb to the Top, which is book number 2 in the Parks Pat Mysteries series. I actually just recorded this entire video without pressing record, so this is take 2, and hopefully this time it works out a little bit better. Long Climb to the Top, like I said, it's book number 2 in the series, and it is set in Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park. And happen to be wearing my Glenbow Ranch shirt today, and in the publicity shots that you'll see on the side of the screen as I do my reading. And my blog post this week, as well as focusing on Long Climb to the Top, also brings you some other books that are murders in natural parks and other natural settings. So hopefully you will enjoy some of those other books as well once you've had a chance to read Long Climb to the Top. So I'm going to read to you from the first chapter of Long Climb to the Top again, because I already read this once. All right. Margie Patenaude didn't need to be a detective to know who had left the dirty dishes in the sink. Christina! Gotta go, Mom, Christina said, rushing into the room. She swept her long black hair out of the way as she shouldered her backpack so that it would not get caught under the strap. The bus will be here any second. I'll see you after school. She headed toward the front door. Oh, and you remember I told you, right, about the Métis Club meeting after school today? So I'll be late. Don't expect me right after school. You left dishes in the sink. I have to go. If I stop to do them, I'll miss the bus, and then you need to drive me to school. Christina had the door open and was halfway out. Sorry, I'll load the dishwasher tonight, okay? Bye. Margie watched her 15-year-old race across the street to the bus stop. And she was right, of course. The bus was making its way down the street, and if she'd taken an extra 10 seconds to have a conversation or rinse off the dishes, she would have missed it. But that was no excuse for Christina to leave them in the sink in the first place, when she knew she was supposed to rinse them and put them directly into the dishwasher. She sighed and did it herself. She had to drive into work, and the other homicide detectives and Sergeant MacDonald wouldn't know whether she'd left 5 minutes later because of her daughter, or if she'd just hit the lights wrong or run into a traffic snarl on Blackfoot Trail. She checked the table and counter for any other orphaned dishes and didn't find any. In another minute she had the dishwasher running. Stella was settled for the day, and Margie was walking at a quick clip out to her car. It was a cool, crisp morning. "Oh, Detective Pat!" called Mrs. Rose, a sweet little old lady who was the first and only owner of the 1960s bungalow next to Margie's. Margie stopped, anxious to be on her way, but not willing to be rude or pretend she hadn't heard Mrs. Rose's call. She took a couple of steps toward her neighbor, but she stopped the prescribed 2 meters away. "Yes, Mrs. Rose? What can I do for you?" "I just wanted to make sure that you heard that the 55 Plus Society is open again." Margie's expression must have betrayed her consternation at this announcement. Mrs. Rose smiled her sweet, pink lipsticked smile. "The 55 Plus Society. It's over there on 26th Avenue, where your grandfather lives." "Oh, yes?" "It's been closed since this whole pandemic thing, but they've opened up again, and they have lots of programs for the seniors in the area. You should take a look at the activities and clubs that they run, see if there's anything that your grandfather would like to go to." "Oh, okay, I will," Margie agreed. She would see if there was anything that might interest Mushum. "Thank you for letting me know." "They probably have flyers in the lobby of the building he lives in, but if they don't, the 55 Plus Society is just about a block away. You can stop in there anytime they're open and get their program guide, and they can give you a tour. They're very helpful over there." "That's great. I'm glad you let me know." Margie gave Mrs. Rose a firm nod, then turned toward her car. "Have a wonderful day." "I will, dear. You too." The workday passed quickly. The homicide team was working on a number of open cases, and none of them was burning hot. It was a matter of chasing down leads, one at a time, doing background checks on persons of interest, interviewing them, looking for connections or alibis, the day-to-day work of a homicide department. She found it easier to move from one case to another than to stay focused on one all day. So she gathered shorter tasks from the primary investigator on each of the cases, read the file to bring herself up to speed, and worked on her assignment. Then she would jump to the next case. No one on the team seemed to mind her ADHD approach. They were happy to have some of the less desirable tasks taken off their hands. Margie was eyeing the clock, trying to decide whether she would have time to review one more case before leaving for the day, when Sergeant MacDonald, Mac, walked up to her desk. He was a tall man, towering over her when she was sitting down. His hair was almost entirely silver, and he had lines of experience around his mouth. He readjusted his thin-rimmed glasses. Yes, sir? Margie immediately tried to think of what she might have done to attract his attention. Good or bad, she didn't want to be under the sergeant's scrutiny too often. Too much praise from him and the rest of the team would resent her, and too much criticism, well, any criticism was likely to keep Margie up half the night with anxiety over her mistake and how to avoid making it again in the future. No one liked being criticized, and Margie felt that she was particularly thin-skinned about it. She criticized herself for not accepting criticism well. How was that for a fault? I've got a case for you. I know you like to be home when your daughter gets home from school, but this is going to need your immediate attention. The duty room was still as everyone listened in. Margie had just solved the Fish Creek Park murder case. The next case should have gone to someone else, although everyone else already had active files and Margie did not, so maybe that was why he had picked her. Yes, sir. She's going to be later today, and of course when it's urgent I can take the time I need to get started on it. She's old enough to be on her own for a few hours if I'm needed elsewhere. She didn't ask him what he had for her, but of course that was the question on the minds of everyone in the room. Mac nodded his appreciation. He ran his fingers through his short gray hair and leaned on her desk. Here's the thing. It's the same M.O. as the Fish Creek Park murder. Margie's eyes went wide. She stared at him in surprise. The same M.O. Robinson had been killed with a single stab wound. Margie had caught the killer, so they knew it wasn't the same killer. Just because another person was killed by a stab wound, that didn't make it the same killer or the same case. The same M.O., MacDonald agreed. It's another provincial park. Male victim, single stab wound with a single-edged blade. Bled out. No apparent provocation, no one heard yelling or was aware that anything was wrong. Body discovered by a family walking the trail with a toddler in a stroller. Not a dog walker this time, but Margie was sure that there were probably a number of dog walkers close by. That one difference didn't make the case different from the Fish Creek murder. She hoped the toddler hadn't seen anything and wasn't old enough to remember it later. Hopefully, she'd been sleeping peacefully in the stroller at the time. It was a good time for an afternoon nap. Okay, I'll look up this park and go see, Margie agreed. Is it near Fish Creek Park? No, halfway to Cochrane. It's actually outside Calgary city limits, but we're heading it up because of the connection to the Fish Creek case, since it looks like the same killer. It's not, though, Margie pointed out. There's always the possibility we got the wrong person for the Fish Creek murder, but he admitted to it. We didn't get the wrong person. I don't think so either, but innocent people do confess. It's also possible he was released on bail or under his foster father's supervision and is no longer in custody. But if this other park isn't close to home, how would he get there? He couldn't walk there like he did to Fish Creek. Is there a bus that goes all the way out there? No, I don't think there's any bus service out there. Tours, maybe. I'm sure it's not related. But because of the similarity in the cases and the sites of the homicide, it's your case. Okay, give me the details. Margie looked at her watch. If she remembered correctly, Cochrane was west, toward the mountains. Margie's home was in the east on the opposite side of the city. She's going to be more than an hour or two late getting home for Christina. Just the travel time would add an extra hour, forget any investigative work, and waiting for someone from the medical examiner's office. Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park, Sergeant MacDonald told her. He spelled it out for her. Do you want directions? Will it be on my GPS? If it's outside the city, it might not be. Should be. It opened in 2011, so it's been there long enough. Okay, so that is the opening chapter for book number 2 in Long Climb to the Top, book number 2 of the Parks Pet Mysteries series. And you can head over to my blog post. You can also pre-order Dark Water Under the Bridge, which comes out next week. This one is set in Ralph Klein Park. And I hope you enjoy Long Climb to the Top, being set in Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park. This one is a little close to my heart. I helped with the creation, build out, and opening of Glenville Ranch Provincial Park and was involved in a number of aspects of the park over the years. So that was a fun one for me to do. Also, check out my blog posts. There are other murders in parks and other beautiful settings for you to download and read today after you're finished with Long Climb to the Top. All right, we'll see you next week for Dark Water Under the Bridge.